want you guys to give it up for Congressman Aaron Schock. It's how I know Rick Grenell. Give it up for Congressman Schock. I wanted you to talk a little bit about what the Justice Department did when you were the youngest. You guys have been to RISCON before. You've seen Aaron speak. And I wanted you to talk about what happened with the Justice Department before.
Well, I think it plays off of what you and Rick were talking about earlier, which is the control of message in the media, and how when you become that guy, when the woke comes after you, right? When you're canceled, how a narrative is perpetuated, not because the media believes it's true or they've even done their homework, but because it becomes bobblehead syndrome. The challenge when you have the left or a group of unchecked people deciding what the narrative is going to be, you can become that guy. And so there became a point where I said, you know what? Mic drop, I'm tapping out. I'm going to go back in the private sector, make money, be an American, and enjoy the fruits of being an American citizen. So they're admitting that I'm not guilty of 24 felonies, but for their reputation now, they want me to lie to my constituents and tell them that I did something I didn't do. Now, you tell them I need my day in court. And 2 months before Election Day, they call me into the courtroom and they dismiss the entire indictment without prejudice. If this happens to me, I shudder to think what an average American would go through, who can't hold their breath, who doesn't have the means to fight back that I had. And that is why when Donald Trump went through what he went through, when they started prosecuting him, I said, game on. Because everybody talks reform, and everybody talks about, making changes. But when you've been that guy, facing 400 years in prison, you start seeing that for the sake of democracy, Lady Justice is going to take her blindfold off. You go, listen, this is somebody that more important than anything, we have to reform, because without liberty, without the freedom of expression, without the ability to challenge those who rule us, who are we?
Why do you think they went after you, though? Because I have this my own theory before you answer the question. You were the first Republican to be on Air Force One with a Barack Obama in your home state. And you were a rising star. Was it a game-on moment that you thought, why did they go after you?
There was the political attacks, which then generated the Justice Department attacks. And that's the point I'm trying to make here, is that I never realized that those two would be intertwined. I never knew that the department that I believed was truth, honor, justice, was more political than almost any other department in government.
What do you think about Pam Bondi?
I think she's great. You need somebody who is tough but has heart and understands the judgment that's required.
Pam Bondi is the reason why I supported Trump. I was supporting Robert Kennedy. He generally cares about people. He's a good human being. I know the press tries to attack him. Pam said to me, he is amongst the best people I know. He is the nicest, kindest, only concerned for other people. He's not what the media makes him out to be. And she said right in front of me, he is one of the best human beings I know, and I need you to understand that, Todd. Rick, what do you think about the idea of having Pam as the Attorney General now?
Look, I know Pam well. She's amazing. She's smart, brave, courageous, but she's also kind, and she's a real person. And I love that she brings a lot of humanity to the position. Pam and I ran the MAGA PAC, a super PAC for President Trump together, and so I got to see her on a daily basis, how she leads. She's tough as nails. She's visionary. I'm struck with something that happened this week that I think is remarkable, and it shows what we were talking about information, Washington, D.C. being a problem. I think it's apropos to your situation, Aaron. Something huge happened this week. After years of Morning Joe talking about the Republicans in a way that we were ending democracy, we may not ever vote again. Donald Trump is Hitler. After all of that language for 4 years, if you watch that, and I like to watch The Other Side, and I would spend an hour a week watching Morning Joe. I tweeted a lot about it, actually. And to me, after watching them literally characterize the other side as the end of America, and then for Joe and Mika to secretly go and meet with Donald Trump, to me, gave away the whole narrative. They knew they were lying. They knew that this was a game on television and they were laughing all the way to the bank with their big paychecks. They knew they were absolutely partisan, one-sided people. And what they decided to do was secretly go to Trump to try to get a little more power and kiss the ring. And when they were exposed, both sides now don't trust them. Literally, the left is melting down because they were duped. If you are a Morning Joe watcher for the past 4 years and you believed everything that they had been saying, and then suddenly they secretly went to the guy that they called Hitler, you look like an idiot for believing them. You look like sheep.
The American people called the media's bluff. They called the left's bluff.
That's exactly
They
what
basically
happened.
said, we don't believe you, and we're going to vote against you.
The media admitted that they were in this phony relationship with America by the number one show on the left, the morning show, Morning Joe, which gave you your talking points on MSNBC for the entire day, every morning for 8 years. They secretly caved and admitted it, and now I think, their reputation is ruined.
Rick, were you confident? Like, did you have a high level of confidence that he was going to win?
I spent 6 weeks on the campaign trail in all the swing states, and I could see the energy, and I could see the difference, and I could see people saying, I never voted for him, and this time I am. I knew that we were going to have more votes, absolutely going into it. I was deathly afraid that they were going to steal it. I run an organization in California called Fix California, which registers voters. What we realize through COVID is that because of this emergency, they mandated that every single person on the voter roll got a ballot. And they knew the voter rolls were a mess with people that had supposed to be kicked off a long time ago. Google this is the truth. After the 2020 election, the largest county in America, Los Angeles County, was forced through a lawsuit settlement about their voter rolls to clean up their voter rolls. Los Angeles County removed 1 million people. 1 million people in Los Angeles County alone were removed from the voter rolls because they weren't supposed to be there. Now, what does that tell you? Those people got ballots in 2020. They were removed in 2022, 2021. This happens in every county. If your county is not going through the voter rolls and kicking people off who move, by the way, everybody moves, constantly move. Las Vegas, one of the most transient places, if you send a ballot to everybody on the voter roll and they don't know the ballot is coming, there's going to be stacks of ballots in apartment complexes from everybody who used to live there. I'm all for mail-in ballots if you request it, and we know the government needs to know that they're sending the ballot to you. If it's secret, it's terrible.
What I'm excited about is Americans decided to call bullshit. They decided to call bullshit. They basically told the media, and that's why these media channels are getting less voters, because I think people are wising up. They're using X, they're using Twitter, whatever you call it. They're using social media to educate themselves and question. You can't just believe what you see. You have to, pay more attention. And they started connecting me to people around the world, like you're talking about on X. I want to get a mic out. I want to take 2 or 3 questions from the audience, because it's rare you get someone like Rick Grenell and Aaron Schock up here.
Hi, Richard. Thank you for your time today. My name is David Williams, and when it comes to election, I believe we won the fight, but as Americans, we didn't win the war, and that's still yet to be won. And I think really where it starts with each and every one of us doing our part in America. And I'd be curious of your perspective, what should every American be doing to make sure after these 4 years, we don't go back?
Good question.
It's a really good question. So I would say we have to recognize the world that we live in. Gone is the day that you get to come into this facility, hear some people speak, and then go walk out that door and go home and hope that somebody else does something to save our country. Many great civilizations have lasted roughly 250 years, and we're butting up against that.
Coming close.
And these civilizations that have imploded have not imploded from war or famine. They've imploded because of internal strife, budget issues, corruption. That's just a fact. And so we are not promised to be the greatest country in the history of the world forever. Ronald Reagan told us every generation is going to come to the point where they have to fight for their freedom. And I'm not suggesting that you storm the beaches of Normandy. But I am suggesting that when everybody walk out of this room, they ask themselves every day for the rest of their lives, what am I doing to help this great country? We are so lucky to live in America. Do you know that we give roughly 1 million people a year citizenship in this country? Brand new people come into this country. We welcome them. 1 million people a year. That's the most generous. You are the most generous people in the history of the world. No other country does that. 1 million people a year becoming citizens. But we have 500 million that want to come into this country, so you got to have lines. Don't ever apologize for wanting a closed border and rules. You're not stingy. You're not a racist, a sexist, a homophobe, or the new one, a Russian agent, because you want order and you want common sense. So when you leave here, you have a responsibility. You can't just sit by and watch your country, because you will lose your country. You have to participate. Somebody in this room needs to run for office. Somebody needs to write a bigger check. Somebody needs to have a bigger voice. But everybody can do something. And that is the great part of America, is that we are in this together, this experience, this experiment that is working. But we have a responsibility.